which runs the complete simulation. You can see the simulation progress on the screen. Since it's taking a long time, we can terminate it and we can see the results till about 75%. We now see the application metrics in the results dashboard, and we see that the throughput obtained is about 430 Mbps. We parallelly open the 5G NR log file. This is a log file containing detailed information of the entire simulation. As you can see here, the naming convention used is such that we see that UE4 interface 1 is associated with GNB1 interface 2. The propagation model starts. The 2D distance, as we have set, is 100 meters. The channel condition is NLOS. NetSim first calculates the propagation loss, which includes path loss, shadowing, and fading. Then the thermal noise is calculated. Then the signal to noise ratio is calculated. Then the spectral efficiency. And based on this, the CQI, based on the spectral efficiency, the CQI is calculated for both uplink and downlink. In this case, we see that the CQI 15 gives us 64 QAM modulation, both in the uplink and in the downlink. So we'll now switch to the presentation table, and we similarly run simulations by increasing the distance between the UE and the GNB to 200, 300, 400, and so on up to 1000 meters. And we note down the path loss, the SNR, the signal to noise ratio, the downlink efficiency, the CQI index. We see that as the distance increases, the path loss increases. Because the losses increase, the signal to noise ratio falls, because of which the downlink efficiency falls, the channel quality drops, and this leads to the link automatically adapting to a lower modulation scheme and a lower coding rate, and therefore we can see the drop from a maximum of 440 Mbps at 100 meters, falling all the way to 80 Mbps at a distance of 1000 meters. Next, we move to FR2. The first experiment was done in frequency range 1, and the next experiment, which is the same, where the distance between the UE and the GNB is increased, when running in the FR2, which is the millimeter wave band. Here we see that the distances are much shorter. We just increase it from 50 to 100 to 150 to 200, and we see how the path loss varies and the signal to noise ratio varies, and similarly the CQI, the modulation, and the coding rates. And we will now look at a comparison between FR1 and FR2. Both FR1 and FR2 results are shown in the two tables. As explained earlier, we understand that as the distance increases, the path loss increases, which in turn leads to lower received power and lower SNR. The lower SNR leads to a lower MCS, modulation and coding scheme, and thereby results in a lower throughput. If you compare the results of FR1 and FR2, one can notice that the drop in FR2 throughput versus distance happens at a much faster rate. In FR2, as we reach 200 meters, we see that the throughput has dropped from 4 Gbps to 1.3 Gbps. That is an almost 75% throughput drop when the distance goes from 50 to 200. Whereas in FR1, we see that we have a much larger distance, the distance varying from 100 to 1000, whereas the throughput supported in FR1 are much lower when compared to FR2. The insight from this is that FR1 supports much higher ranges but at much lower data rates. FR2 supports much higher data rates, but the range is much lower. In the next example, we will look at the impact of max scheduling algorithm on network performance. We open this simulation in NetSim. What we have here is a multi-UE scenario. In the previous case, we had seen a single UE scenario where one GNB was connected to one UE. In this case, we are looking at a multi-UE scenario, and we would like to understand how the scheduling algorithm affects the UDP download throughput of a multi-UE system when the UEs are at different distances from the GNB. The network, as you can see, consists of one GNB and three UEs. The GNB is connected to an EPC, which in turn connects to a cloud server. The wired links are all multi-gig links. The UEs are placed in such a way that they are at varying distances from the GNB. UE1 is placed at 300 meters, UE2 is placed at 600 meters, and UE3 is placed at 900 meters. In the GNB data link layer properties, we set the scheduling algorithm to round robin. There are many options available, out of which we choose the round robin scheduling option. Here again, the network traffic is modeled by setting up a basic CBR application, which is a constant bitrate application between the wired nodes and each of the UEs. The transport protocol is set to UDP, and for all three applications, the packet size is set to 1460 bytes, and the inter-arrival time is set to 23 microseconds, such that each node is downloading at a rate of 500 Mbps. As you can see on the screen, we have three applications set up to each of the UEs, and each application is a 500 Mbps download. We now run the simulation for 0.3 seconds. Here again, the simulation may take a while. We'll wait for a significant portion of the simulation to be completed. So now that we have reached about 55%, we will terminate the simulation to complete this faster. And in the application metrics dashboard, we can see the throughputs obtained for each of the UEs. We'll now go back to the presentation. In a similar way, in the example, simulations are run for all the scheduling algorithms, namely proportional fair, max throughput, and fair scheduling. And we can see here two tables. The first table contains the UE, that is the mobile nodes throughputs if they were run standalone, which means that only if that UE were downloading the 500 Mbps of data without any of the other UEs being present. Here we can see that if it was at a distance of 300 meters, you would have got a throughput of 440 Mbps. If you were at 600 meters, you would have got 240 Mbps, and if you were at 900 meters, you would have just got 93 Mbps. These results are from the previous example where we had shown how the throughput of a UE varies as its distance from the GNB is increased. So having understood that this is the variation of the UE throughput with distance, we now run the multi-UE simulations, and we see the throughputs under different max scheduling algorithm options. In round robin, the physical resources are allocated equally amongst the three nodes. However, when we see the throughputs, we see that UE1 has a higher throughput than UE2, which in turn has a higher throughput than UE3. And this is because they are at different distances from the GNB. The individual throughput seen by each of the UEs is exactly 1/3 of the throughput shown in table 1. 147 is approximately 1/3 of 441, 80 is 1/3 of 240, and 30 is 1/3 of 93. 31 is 1/3 of 93. So you see that because the allocation is done in a round robin basis, each of them gets exactly 1/3 of the throughput that they would have got if they were run individually. In proportional fair scheduling, the resource allocation is such that nearer UEs get proportionally higher allocation when compared to further away UEs. In max throughput scheduling, the 5-layer resources are allocated such that the system gets the maximum download throughput possible. We can see here that the maximum of 440 Mbps is got in this system. Fair scheduling provides strict fairness, and this results in all applications seeing equal throughput. So this completes the two examples that are there in NetSim that we wanted to demo in this presentation. We will now quickly talk about the 5G roadmap which is coming up in the subsequent releases in 2020. We expect to do PDCP phase 2, which is based on 3GPP standard 38.323, which has PDCP entity establishment, re-establishment, release, status reporting. Then RRC phase 2 for connection control and connection establishment. The RLC entity, RLC AM and TM mode, polling and status reporting. And in the 5-layer, based on the standard 38.901, we will be adding beamforming, multi-beam operation, and multi-antenna MIMO models. We will also be adding mobility to the UEs as well as handover between multiple GNBs. These are expected in the subsequent releases in the second half of this year. Some of the R&D areas where NetSim is being used in 5G is for end-to-end simulation of 5G NR. So NetSim is a system level simulator, unlike link level simulators which just simulate one link between the UE and GNB in great detail. In NetSim you can run end-to-end simulations, that is UE to the remote host or UE to another UE, and therefore you can do R&D on end-to-end simulation. Then radio numerology mu, by varying mu, how is its impact on latency? As we had seen in the first slide, one of the goals of 5G is to ensure that latency is always less than 1 millisecond. So you can do a lot of research on latency and how numerology impacts latency. We showed you some examples of the max scheduling algorithm. Since NetSim ships with source C code, users can modify our inbuilt algorithms. They can write their own max scheduling algorithms. There are several algorithms that are currently under study, and you can write your own algorithms and see various what if conditions on how the system performs in your max scheduling algorithms are being run. We also explained that NetSim supports both FR1 and FR2 frequency ranges in the 5-layer. There are some inbuilt channel models for path loss, for fading, for shadowing, for O2I, outdoor to indoor, for line of sight, non-line of sight. These are empirical models provided by the 3GPP standardization body, but there are many different scenarios in which 5G would need to be tested, and many users are writing their own channel models and seeing the system performance of their channel models using NetSim. These are some of the areas of R&D that are currently happening using NetSim. And now a quick slide on the current difficult situation that is there worldwide and what we are doing to how we are supporting some of our existing customers. So for all our existing customers, we continue to provide all the necessary support. Our email support is running, telephone support, remote desktop support. We are also conducting a number of webinar and online training sessions. We've added a number of new videos to our YouTube channel. And for some of our customers whose employees or students at universities, where they are not able to access the license server in the university, we have set up cloud servers whereby students can get licenses from our cloud servers and run NetSim. All we require is a request from the institution, and we are happy to provide licenses to students so that they can run NetSim from their residence. This completes our webinar.